Coming up on Broncos weekend, Sean Payton is getting set to make his Broncos debut as the 2023 season kicks off with the Las Vegas Raiders coming to town.
Obviously, you want to play well. It's a home game. It's a division game. It's our first game.
A new and improved Russell Wilson is ready for his second season with the Broncos. We'll tell you why this year things will be different.
I think the biggest thing is going out on the field and just doing what we know how to do and playing at the highest level.
Plus, we go inside the locker room and hear from Pat Surtain II as the defense preps for Davante Adams, Josh Jacobs, and Jimmy G.
I'm always looking forward to those battles.
All that and more coming up next on Broncos Weekend. Hello and thank you for joining us for our all-new season of Broncos Weekend. I am Phil Milani, joined as always by the Hall of Famer Steve Atwater and Super Bowl 50 champ Ryan Harris. Guys, are you ready to get this thing started?
I'm more than ready.
It's about time.
Every week we'll be getting you ready for kickoff, and this week our main story, of course, is Sean Payton getting set to make his debut. And you know, one of the things that you always hear about him is his game planning. Finally, we'll get to see that this week.
Yeah, we're definitely going to see the game plan, and I would imagine it's going to be sort of like, first we're going to try to run the ball, then we're going to hit you with the play action pass. Then guess what? Now we're going to throw the deep ball on you. And then we're going to throw in a flea flicker or something like that as well, just to get the full gamut of the playbook. So I think it's going to be exciting. He's an excellent play caller, excellent offensive guru, and we get a chance to see it on full display.
I also think we're going to see a lot of situational football being executed, something that's been missing the last couple of years from the Broncos. Every player I talked to in the preseason talked about how much situational football was taught as a team. Coach Payton told me that he wants the entire team, the entire sideline, to know what they're doing in those situations because he's coached it so well. So not only some of those deep passes we've been waiting to see, but also some situational football that ends up being the difference in divisional games.
Yeah, these games are so close always. You know, just a play here or there can make the big difference. How's he changed the culture around here? You mentioned the teaching, Ryan, but it feels like there's like a different feeling around the building, Steve.
Yeah, I don't know. It feels like the guys are in tune, and I wouldn't say that the guys relaxed, but everybody's on their P's and Q's, on their toes, and I don't think anybody's taking anything for granted this year.
He brought accountability back to the locker room. That's the number one thing you see. Players are accountable for the plays they make. And also, you can tell players are more focused and playing fast because they have less to worry about. You're not worrying about family coming to practice. You're not worrying about what another teammate's doing. You're focused on your job, and you're accountable for it. And I think that's the biggest culture change that we're going to see on the field.
Well, we're all eager to see what this thing looks like come Sunday. And ahead of the opener, head coach Sean Payton says, hey, it's normal to feel anxious.
You know, you haven't played a full game with your starters. You've been in the preseason. You know, there's a handful of guys that are new here, coaches and players. And I would always say the first quarter pole of the season, you're in a sprint to improve and make corrections. And so, you know, we're trying throughout this week to hit on everything that can come up.
Well, everybody wants to see what this looks like with Sean Payton and Russell Wilson. Russ heading into year 2 now in Denver. What do you think? How is that marriage going to work, Steve?
I think it's going to work out well simply because both of those gentlemen have a ton of respect for each other. I think Russell Wilson respects what Sean Payton did in New Orleans and what he's done thus far here with the Broncos. And I think that Sean Payton has a healthy dose of confidence in Russell Wilson and belief that he still has it. A lot of people out there have lost faith. I haven't. I still believe that Russell Wilson is an elite quarterback, and I think that this system is going to fit him to a T. And I'm anxious to see what the first episode of it looks like.
For me, I think you're going to see a tremendous amount of running from Russell Wilson, and maybe not tremendous compared to other quarterbacks like a Lamar Jackson, but you're going to see Sean Payton use that skill of Russell Wilson's. We saw it in the preseason, especially that second game. Russell Wilson was getting back there. He hitched twice. If he didn't like it, he ran. Steve knows you do that twice in a game, defenses are going to go more vanilla. They're not going to blitz as much because they got to account for the quarterback. That, I think, is going to be the biggest change we see in Russell Wilson's play under Sean Payton.
he lost 15 pounds this offseason. You can really see it out there on the field.
Yeah, it really shows, not just in how quick he is in terms of making decisions and running, but also in his arm. Like his arm is stronger than it was last year when I watched practice this training camp, and that's something that's really going to make an impact and give guys like Courtland Sutton a huge opportunity to have a career year.
You got to be excited to see what this thing looks like come Sunday. Last year did not go as the Broncos had hoped, and Russell Wilson faced more than his fair share of criticism. But he says, hey, that comes with the job.
You know, you're playing high stakes and playing, and you dream to be the best that you can possibly be every day. There's always going to be people that question whether you can do it or not, and I think I've proven that throughout my career what I can do, and I got to do it again. That's just the name of the game. Every time I step into the white lines, there's always something to show, something to prove.
Certainly a lot of pressure on Russell Wilson this Sunday, but also on this Broncos defense, which is now under the helm of former head coach Vance Joseph. With more, here's Denver 7's Troy Rank and the matchup of the game.
Listen, we understand it's been a tough go for the Broncos against the Raiders recently. They've dropped 6 straight games. Part of the reason? Josh Jacobs. He is a brute force coming out of the backfield. Jacobs, in his career, is 7-0 against the Broncos. He averages more than 100 yards per game. He's part Earl Campbell, part Walter Payton. But that could end this week in the opener. How do you do it? Well, I talked to Pat Surtain about it. He said, listen, you cannot tackle this guy with one guy. It's about gang tackling, getting to the ball, getting him onto the ground, making him feel you. Mike Purcell told me the same thing. He said, listen, I'm hearing talk about how he held out. He might not be as ready for this game. I don't think that's going to be an issue. And Purcell told me we've got to make him feel us early in the game. That's why you have Mike Purcell. It's why you have DJ Jones. He is an elite run stuffer. And you brought in Zach Allen. This is a guy who's been one of the best players in training camp. So you've got to get into the head of Josh Jacobs early in the game, make him know that those yards he might get 3 or 4, but he's going to feel it. The other factor too, and I know Purcell discounted this, he did not have training camp. He's going to be at altitude. When you look at how Jacobs has played against the Broncos, he gets better as the game gets longer. Is that possible on Sunday when you're talking about a guy that didn't have camp? First game at altitude. Josh McDaniels has already talked about keeping guys on a play count. That's the key. Get to him early. Force him to basically get desperate, get a lead in the game, and they won't go to Josh Jacobs. He's not really part of their passing game. So that is the key for this Broncos team. Gang tackling, get to the ball, get around him, get them into 3rd and longs. That takes him off the field. And if there's no Josh Jacobs controlling the tempo, there's no chance the Raiders are going to extend that winning streak against the Broncos.
Thank you very much, Troy. Yeah, we'll have to see if that streak comes to an end this Sunday. Of course, Josh Jacobs missed all of the preseason, ended his holdout just last week. Steve, you think that he'll have fresh legs because of that, or he'll be a little bit rusty?
Yeah, well, I would imagine he would have fresh legs starting out, but playing in an NFL game is a big deal. I don't care how many years you've played in the league. That first NFL game is a big deal. And to not have played in one, not to play in the preseason, not to have really practiced with the team until the last couple of weeks here, I think it's going to make a difference. We may see him some. I don't imagine him I can't see him getting more than 12, 13 carries. But who knows? Who knows? He may be in excellent shape. But he has to deal with the altitude.
Yep. He has to deal with the altitude and look out for turnovers. First game back, he hasn't been hit with an NFL hit yet. People have been staying away from him at practice. Look out for some turnovers from Josh Jacobs. That's what I'd be talking to my defense about. Every opportunity, try and punch that ball, try and pull it out because he's not used to that. And he's not as close with his team as he was last year. That does matter to players, and I've found in my experience, when you got somebody carrying the ball who's really not attached to the team, that ball can come out pretty easily.
Yeah, I mean, the rest of the guys just went through all training camp together, and then, boom, he shows up. But led the league in rushing yards last season, so we know what he's capable of.
And I think he's going to have confidence coming in just because of the success
New
that
deal.
he's had over the past years. He's like, I got to get in here and play this game because I'm averaging over 100 yards per game when I play against the Broncos, and we got to show him that, that era is over.
That's over. That's over now. All right, well, it's time for our first break. When we come back, we'll dive into this rivalry with the Raiders. That's still a thing, right? Plus, we'll hear from Pat Surtain II and his big matchup with Davante Adams. That's next on Broncos Weekend.
You know, I mean, not only is he has all the attributes. You know, he's very smart.
The Denver Broncos opened 1992 in mystical Mile High Stadium against a bitter rival. The Raiders were in town.
Here we go. We need to take it down and get us one here. Let's get her going right now. Relax, have some fun, and do what we can do.
Blitz, blitz, blitz. Here it comes, and Elway gets away from it. And there's the pass. Marshall's got it. Breaks the tackle at the 30, 25, 20, 15, 10, down to the 8-yard line. Lionel Washington pulls him down.
Let's go, baby, let's go. Let's go. 585.
Elway under center.
Gap. 585, hut.
Keeps the ball. Gives it out to the right side. Touchdown, Reggie Rivers.
85 yards in the drive. Took them 1 minute and 56 seconds. They did it with no timeouts.
The way to fight. It's over. Denver 17. The Los Angeles Raiders 13.
That's a look back at the 1992 season opener against the Raiders at home, and hey, another classic John Elway comeback. That leads us to our key stat. The Broncos are 5-3 all-time against the Raiders in season openers, but the NFL is a what have you done for me lately league, and things have not gone so well against the silver and black. The Broncos have lost 6 consecutive to the Raiders. Welcome back to Broncos Weekend here. I am Phil Milani in studio with Steve Atwater and Ryan Harris. Guys, watching some of those old films, you know, that gets me fired up. Steve, I know you don't like the Raiders.
I don't like the Raiders. Now, I have some great friends who played for the Raiders, and you know it goes only so far, right? I mean, we don't like the idea of the Raiders team because we play against each other. But at the end of the day, we still have the relationships in that. But yeah, I'm not a Raider fan. I'll never be a Raider fan. I don't even like wearing black just because of the Raiders. But yeah, it's going to be great.
I can't stand the Raiders. And Broncos country, good news. I talked to a lot of new people here at the Broncos team in the front office. They've found a reason not to like the Raiders as well. This is a real rivalry. The Raiders have spoiled the Broncos season too many times, and you just can't stand their fans as a former player. Steve, you know the smells, the sounds, the noise, getting batteries. I mean, that's all real. Yeah. You drive into that stadium. Now, fortunately for the Broncos, it's here at home, but you drive into that stadium and you feel like you're going into a prison or something. They're rocking buses. It's crazy. Can't stand the Raiders. This is a huge, huge game for the Broncos.
Yeah, and I think that when you play against a team twice and you have the history that you have from being in the same division for so long, it has to be a rivalry. It has to. And coaches, I understand, they want to make every game seem like, hey, it's no more important than the next game. But at the end of the day, yeah, you got to feel a little bit something different when you play against all the teams in the AFC West.
Not quite like when you played back on that diamond. You know, you're getting thrown around in the dirt. You know, there's blood everywhere. Not quite the same as that, but still, it's a big game. Guys, it's time for our bold prediction. Steve, let's start with you.
Well, my bold prediction is we're going to see the coming out of Marvin Mims. I think Marvin Mims has a 100-yard receiving game, one big play for at least 30 yards plus, and this is going to be the start of something very special here in Broncos country for the receivers. Another receiver that's going to be coming out.
That's right. My big thing is Cortland Sutton getting 2 touchdowns. I think he's going to get 2 touchdowns in this game. Every single time as a broadcast in the preseason, we talked to the coaches. Cortland Sutton came up by defensive coaches as the best player on offense, but also Sean Payton, Joe Lombardi talking about him and how big of a year they think he's going to have. I got Cortland Sutton for 2 tuggies in this game.
Love it.
Okay, I like it. I thought maybe you were going to do some Max Crosby related, maybe Javante.
Get him out of here.
We got to keep him out of the backfield.
Yeah, we don't want to say that.
No, sorry, I didn't mean to bring up his name. Sorry. Well, a lot of players are going to have their hands full going up against the Raiders this weekend, but maybe none more than Pat Surtain II in his rematch coming up with Davante Adams. Let's go inside the Broncos locker room and hear from Sidney Jones in our interview of the week.
Thanks, Phil. We're checking in here with cornerback Pat Surtain. Pat, it's week 1. The season is finally here. How you feeling? Ready?
Yeah, feeling excited. You know, we got an early test. You know, we go against a division opponent in the Raiders, so, you know, very excited for that one. I already know the anticipation going to be high because I already know it's a rivalry game. So, you know, we preparing well and we just ready. You know what I mean?
What's kind of been the energy in the building here, the vibe in the locker room this week leading up to the game?
Yeah, I just sense like a sense of focus. Guys are determined, the attitude changed. So, especially going on to this season, guys just excited, ready to go, because it's been a long wait, but now it's here. So, we could finally say we could play on Sunday for real. So I know the guys are amped up and very excited like how I am. So I'm just looking forward to it, all in all.
Well, you're starting this season with the highly anticipated Pat Surtain and Davante Adams rematch. You looking forward to facing him again?
Yeah, I'm always looking forward to those battles. Obviously, he's a good player. I'm a good player. So, iron sharpen iron. And, it's only going to see where I'm at. It's only going to make me better, you know what I mean? So he's a savvy veteran. Obviously, he knows the ins and outs. Not only is he has all the attributes, he's very smart. Film study is very vital as well, too. And just getting on top of that as well, too.
Last one for you, Pat. How do you think this Raiders offense will be different now that Jimmy Garoppolo is leading that team?
Yeah, I don't see their offense changing very much. I just think that, once you bring in a new quarterback, obviously he's different from Derek Carr, but I just think that it makes the scheme a little different, just understanding what he likes to do, his tendencies, what he goes throughout his reads. And, we studying, very hard on him. And, it's just going to make it easier once we did our film study and we did all that. So, just going through the film room and the film study, we got a very good plan for this week, so very excited for it.
Well, Pat, looking forward to seeing you back in action on Sunday. Thanks for taking the time today.
Thank you.
Phil, I'll send it back to you.
Thank you very much, Sydney. Yeah, Davante Adams, he's going to be a problem. Of course, last season had that walk-off touchdown in overtime. Knowing Pat the way that we do, you think he's been thinking about that all offseason?
I don't think so. I think he's a competitor, and he knows that was one battle. He didn't win that one, but guess what? He's back up. He's ready to fight again, and he's going to be right there guarding Davante Adams, and I think he's going to win this battle. And it's going to be back and forth. When you have great athletes, it happens at times.
Yeah, and you got to look at the number, not the player. He's not covering Davante Adams.
That's right.
He's covering number 17, right. Wherever he's going. Do not give that man any more credit than the number on his jersey, and stay in the competition with what you can control. I think Pat Surtain's going to have a great day.
These are two of the best players at their positions in the NFL. So whatever happens, it's just going to be fun for us to watch. But we want to see Pat get a little revenge.
We want to see him get the best of it. But at the end of the day, it's going to be a great game. And, hey, everybody out there in Broncos country, I know we're pulling for Pat Surtain, but at the end of the day, it's still going to be a great matchup, and it's going to be fun regardless of how it turns out. Now, we got to win the game.
Yes, no question.
All right. Well, it's time for our final break of the show. When we come back, we'll have our keys to the game, and we'll explain why a win this Sunday could really propel the Broncos this season.
It's going to be fun to see how Coach game plans and puts the pieces together and puts guys in place to go score touchdowns, because we have the guys that can go do it. We have the quarterback that can do it. We have the coaches that can put the game plan together. If we keep doing what we've been doing in terms of coming in every day, prepared, coming in prepared, coming in, with the right mindset to come get better. If we keep that going, throughout the game weeks, I think we'll be in a good spot.
Courtland Sutton is looking to regain his 2019 form when he caught 6 touchdown passes and was selected to the Pro Bowl. For more on the Broncos' big whiteout, once again, here's Sydney Jones with our Fantasy Focus.
Thanks, Phil. For this week's Fantasy Focus, we're highlighting wide receiver Courtland Sutton. After a productive offseason, Courtland is in great position to have a strong bounce-back year. We saw Courtland make changes to his offseason routine, cut some weight, got stronger physically and mentally in hopes to see different results on the field, and he went on to have an impressive training camp and preseason, and there's no reason why that won't translate to the regular season here on Sunday as well. Looking back at Courtland Sutton's statistics last season, with 64 catches for 829 yards and 2 touchdowns, he accumulated 159.4 fantasy points in PPR leagues. Now looking at Sunday, Courtland's put up some decent points in fantasy versus the Raiders in the past years. In 2022, Sutton put up 16.2 fantasy points in Week 4 with 5 catches for 52 yards and a touchdown. The year before that, in Week 6, he finished the weekend with 23.4 fantasy points on 8 catches for 94 yards and a touchdown. This weekend, he's projected to get 12.98 points versus the Raiders, so I think it'd be worth starting him in your flex spot. That'll do it for this week's Fantasy Focus.
Thank you very much, Sydney. Time to wrap up the show now, guys, with some final thoughts. Steve?
Yeah, well, I think a few keys that I have to the Broncos having success in this game, I would say, first off, we got to stay healthy. We got to guys got to finish the game healthy, play a majority of the plays in the game. I would also say that we're going to have to keep Max Crosby out of the backfield. He's been a force to reckon with each time we've played them. And if we can keep him from getting in the backfield, keep him no sacks on the day, it'll be a great day. And that offensive line will be able to hoist up Russell Wilson and Sean Payton at the end of the day and say that this was a great day.
To me, this comes down to two players, Zach Allen and Randy Gregory. If they have a good game, they stop Josh Jacobs coming to the line of scrimmage at running back, the Broncos are going to have a great game. Zach Allen's been a powerful addition to this roster since the preseason, and I think he's going to have a monster year. And then Randy Gregory, what can you do in another system, in a new way this year to show coaches you're ready to help win a championship?
Guys, you think that a win on Sunday could really change the confidence level of this team? I mean, just a buy-in to Sean Payton?
Yeah, I think it can, but I also think that the effort that they give, and when they go back and look at the film at the end of the day, whether you win or lose, if you've given 110% on every play and you play smart, I think guys will be able to take something positive from this game.
Absolutely, this is a big deal, and it changes things not only in the locker room, but this is a ripple effect game. You beat the Raiders, you send a ripple effect into the division saying we're not the same team. Doesn't matter what your record was against us then, we're coming for you now. This is a huge win if they can go and get it, and it will mean a lot to the franchise, the locker room, and no question the fans.
All right, well, we're done with training camp. We're done with the preseason. Now it's time for some real football. We're pumped up here. So that's going to do it for us, for Troy Rank and Sidney Jones, and us here in the studio, Ryan Harris, the Super Bowl 50 champ, the Hall of Famer Steve Atwater. I am Phil Milani. Thank you for watching Broncos Weekend.